And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and welcome to Your Money. And we are Randy and Sherry Goss with the Rosenberg Financial Group. And as financial advisors, the main thing that we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. And if you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact our office and set up your complimentary consultation. Our number is 478-922-8100, and we have offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience. And to find out more about us, visit our website, retirerelax.com, where you can read a number of special reports and listen to past radio show broadcasts. And if you sign up, you can sign up to receive our digital feeds, which provide great information on various subjects in short video format. And if you are looking for a guest speaker for your church group or civic organization, please give us a call and speak with Sherry, and you can line up what you're looking for in your meeting. And if you'd like to call into the show today, the number is 478-742-0940. And you can send me an email at randy@rfmoney.com if you don't want to hear your voice on the radio show, and we'll cover your question in a future broadcast. Good morning,
nice.
Sherry. Are you awake?
No.
Don't you love this morning, the thunder, the lightning, the rain?
I could have slept longer. Oh, well. Well, anyways, headlines this week. So the Fed met. We'll talk about that. More than 150 companies reported earnings this week. Federal Reserve resumed interest rate hikes this week in an effort to further cool inflation. Quarter percentage point hike was a unanimous decision by policymakers, which is nice for a change. They were all on the same page.
That's right.
Instead of fighting and arguing and you know what, each other. So anyway, so the 11th increase since March of 22. This pushed the rate to 5.5%, the highest level in 22 years. Fed Chair Jerome Powell emphasized that further rate hikes are possible and will depend on incoming economic data.
Right. And, we need to remember that the Fed is driving by looking back in the rearview mirror. The reports they always use are historic. While they provide an indication of the future, they are not precise, and no backward-looking projection is. We can base projections on past data, but data does not predict the future performance, just like in any securities. There are so many variables that can change, and that's why curbing inflation this time around has been so stinking difficult.
Right, especially when we're at full employment.
Yep.
So this is from The Economist. America's economy grew by 2.4% at an annualized rate in the second quarter, beating economists' expectations of 1.8%. The increase was spurred by strong consumer spending and a surge in private investment. The surprising resilience of America's economy is good news for policymakers. Inflation is easing, too. Consumer prices rose just 3% in June, the smallest increase in over 2 years.
I was glad to see that.
On Wednesday, Jerome Powell, chair of America's central bank, said that he no longer expects the country to fall into a recession. Finally, he's saying this.
A soft landing. Yep. Like that.
Wall Street Journal. Oil prices are set to rise in the second half of the year as supply struggles to meet demand, according to the International Energy Forum official Joseph McGonigal, Secretary General of the International Energy Forum. He attributes the push in oil prices to an increased demand from China, which we've been waiting for now for a year, finally happening, and India, two of the biggest oil consumers right after the U.S. Crude oil has traded below its 200-day moving average for that long only a few other times in history. West Texas Intermediate traded below its 200-daily moving average in 1986, 1994, 1998, and 2016, according to Bespoke Invest. Once it rose back above its 200-day moving average, it kept on climbing. Oil was higher 12 months later every time and saw an average gain of 27%.
And I read this week that while China is one of the world's largest consumers of oil, they have not yet returned to the pre-COVID oil consumption levels.
Right.
But when they do, I expect oil prices to rise even further because production is not keeping up with it now. It's going to be more exacerbated.
So Americans between 25 and 54 years of age, this is interesting, it's that just this week, are either employed or looking for jobs at rates not seen in 2 decades, a trend helping to counter the exodus of older baby boomers from the workforce. Another trend, more women are working as they aren't having as many children, and employers are offering more flexibility and improved benefits. From MarketWatch, do you have, and it's a totally sidetrack, do you have any Beanie Babies in your attic? Remember these cute little stuffed animals? Well, a movie is coming out on Apple TV, and collectors believe it will increase sales and drive prices up. If you have any, go to eBay and see how much money people are making from reselling these old dolls, toys, whatever you want to call them. Just a thought and a way to get rid of more stuff, which I'm all about.
I can't believe they're making a comeback.
The movie they think is going to drive interest, and they said that people are making. There's some of these Beanie Babies that are worth $10,000, and people have them just sitting in bins in their attic or their basement. They need to dig them out and get rid of them.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about 3 big retirement account challenges or changes you haven't heard about. And it's hard enough to learn about all the retirement account laws and rules. Keeping up with the retirement account changes from year to year is a tall order for the best of us. Congress passed a slew of new retirement account changes recently, and 3 of them are worth singling out for how they may be able to help you in your wallet. You can now elect to take your company 401k match via a Roth. If you're a small business owner or a self-employed, you are using a SEP or a simple IRA, you now have a Roth option. This is fantastic. And starting next year, if your child doesn't attend college, you can convert his or her 529 plan to a Roth IRA. And let's explain each of those in more detail. First, the Roth 401k company match is now available. A company 401k plan is one of the most common retirement plan accounts. If you are a full-time employee, chances are you have access to one. Of course, the best part of a 401k plan is the company match. Most employers will match a certain percentage of the amount you put into your 401k. Using very technical industry language, that's free money. Contributing enough to your workplace 401k account to get the full match is a tremendous idea. It is the equivalent of giving yourself a raise. Plus, since the dollars your company is giving you are going straight to the retirement account for you to invest, by the time you're ready to use that money, it could be worth a lot more money. Historically, however, even if you chose a Roth 401k for your contributions, the company match funds always went to the traditional 401k, but that option is changing. Some companies have adopted these new rules and have not, and some have not. So contact your HR if you're interested in making the switch. They will likely roll this out in the fall during open enrollment.
So SEP and simple IRAs now offer Roth options. So if you're self-employed, you're allowed to use a solo 401k. However, if you have any employees, you're no longer allowed to participate in a solo 401k. The other downside is that solo 401k plans require a lot of administrative work. If you'd rather skip the extra admin work, you can make use of a SEP IRA instead, which I did for years until I took over the practice from Steve. And because I have employees now, I no longer am doing the SEP. We're doing a simple instead. So you can also use a SEP or a simple if you run a small business with employees. Up until now, those retirement accounts only allowed traditional options. So any contributions are pre-tax. They reduce your taxable income for the year, but you'll owe taxes on the money when you withdraw in retirement. Now you have the same Roth option available to you as an employer or business owner if you want to offer a SEP or simple. So let me give you a quick concept of this SEP. Let's say that you're a self-employed person. You have your own business. You can put up to 25% of your income pre-tax into a SEP every year.
That is
huge. It is the best deal ever, and the cap is something like $64,000. So you can set aside a lot more money than you ever could in a traditional IRA or Roth. And I don't know why more people don't know about this. I don't know why CPAs don't tell everybody about this, because it's the best deal ever. Anyway,
let's go to the third change. It's the 529 plan converting to a Roth. This is a fantastic idea, in my opinion. A 529 plan allows you to save and invest your money tax-free for your child's college education. It is a tremendous way to pay for college, which gets more and more expensive every year. But there's an inherent risk to a 529 plan. If your child doesn't attend college or your choices were lousy, you could gift the money to another relative for their college education. Or you could take the money out of the 529 plan, but then you'd owe federal taxes plus a 10% IRS penalty. Starting next year, though, you have a new option, a better option. Now, if your kid is one of the one in three who doesn't go to college, you're able to convert the 529 plan to a Roth IRA for them, so it's never taxed. You can't do a Roth for a kid until they're working because a Roth requires a person to have earned income to participate. Well, now it means you can basically do a Roth in a backdoor way starting at the time of the kid's birth.
Phenomenal. So it's capped at $35,000. You can do this under the law starting next year. But what an incredible deal it is to be able to put that money in, have it to be used for education or have it be used for a retirement account. Both strategies end up working in the 529 account.
I mean, these are all three just fantastic ideas.
I'm just amazed.
A lot of times what we get are last-minute changes that make no sense.
Or that make things worse.
You're right.
So Walmart versus Amazon. This is from The Economist. When Amazon announced the $13.7 billion acquisition of Whole Foods Market in 2017, it followed some oddball attempts to strengthen its grocery business, some conceived by Jeff Bezos himself. One was to develop an ice cream truck for adults, driving into neighborhoods with lights flashing and horns honking to sell porterhouse steaks, oysters, Nintendo games, and other goodies, which sounds like a horrible idea.
Yeah, especially if you're in a covenant-restricted community.
Yeah, so it was quietly shelved. Amazon's purchase of Whole Foods signaled it would take a more conventional approach to the supermarket business. That is probably why, when the deal was announced, Amazon's share price soared and those of its rivals such as Walmart fell. But since then, Amazon has treated the grocery business more like a science experiment than an exercise in seduction, with weak results at Whole Foods and other formats. Its best-known addition to the retail experience is the Just Walk Out technology in physical stores equivalent to its one-click shopping online. Yet cashierless supermarkets sound like something more beloved of geeks than grocers. What may cut down on time-wasting queues also minimizes what some people love about shopping: the human interaction at the till, the hunter-gatherer instinct as they jostle at the meat counter, the Columbian exchange between fellow foodies at the spice rack. Amazon is trying to refresh the experience. Last year, it recruited Tony Hoggett, a former executive from Tesco, a British supermarket chain, to bring grocery wisdom to a business till now was obsessed with overhead cameras, QR codes, and data collection.
Right. And until Mr. Hoggett, Amazon is trying to make the fresh stores less soulless. Human cashiers and self-checkouts are back for those who prefer them. Whole Foods expertise is being used to rethink store locations. It is part of an effort to make the grocery shopping as habitual as Amazon is on Amazon as it is to Walmart. Pardon me. Andy Jass, the CEO, says that it's aiming to build a mass grocery format commensurate with Amazon's site. Yet, if anything, Walmart looks more likely to invade Amazon's territory than the other way around. Neither the firm thinks of itself as competing head-to-head with the other, but they are, because both have big growth ambitions. For Walmart, that means expanding its business beyond the grocery into general merchandise, as well as attracting high-income online customers. Both of these are Amazon's forte. For Amazon, it means a bigger presence in grocery, both online, where shopping still accounts for only about 10% of America's $800 billion supermarket business, and offline.
In bricks and mortar, Walmart's lead is huge. It has the largest footprint in America with about 4,700 outlets compared with 530 Whole Foods, 44 Amazon Fresh, and 22 Amazon Go shops. Grocery accounts for most of its sales, whereas for Amazon, they are a sliver. Its everyday low prices work. A survey by MoffettNathanson, a research firm, found equivalent products at Amazon Fresh were far pricier. Walmart's speed of delivery matches Amazon's. What Amazon lacks in stores, it hopes to make up for in membership of its Prime loyalty program, which is estimated at $170 million in America, compared with about $22 million for Walmart Plus.
Let me interject something here. Mm-hmm. How much is the Amazon now? It's up to like $140 a year, something like that?
I can't remember.
They went from $99 and they bumped it this last year.
Right.
We just read that Walmart's is something like $45 or $65, something like that. So there's a big difference in the price for the annual membership. So I think they're going to siphon off a lot of Amazon's.
Eventually, it hopes that online grocery shopping, combined with 3 different formats, Whole Foods for specialty and higher-end goods, Fresh for general grub, and Go for grab and go, will enable customers to buy everything they need via a single app. Amazon has 2 other advantages: a whopping marketplace platform for third-party sellers, which adds to the range of products available on its website, and an advertising business with a hefty $38 billion of revenue last year, which supplements the supermarket business.
Yeah, because shoppers like to see, feel, and smell their groceries before buying them. The scarcity of stores is a problem. Dean Rosenblum of Bernstein, a broker, calculates that Amazon Fresh is accessible to just over a third of Americans. In contrast, 90% of them live within 10 miles of a Walmart. If Amazon opened 50 new fresh stores a year, in a decade time, it would reach only the size of a Whole Foods. That's their current tally. And that would be a near criminally irresponsible use of Amazon's capital. Mr. Rosenblum says that the view is spreading, and that Terry Smith, a British fund manager, recently dumped his Amazon stock, arguing that the move into the grocery retail risks miscalculating capital.
Moreover, Walmart appears to be making more headway with online selling and advertising than Amazon is with its real-world stores. Walmart's online sales were estimated at $82 billion last fiscal year, more than 4 times Amazon's physical store sales. It appears to be borrowing Amazon's model of attracting third-party sellers to its site in order to increase the assortment of products, raise logistics revenue, and boost advertising. Last year, Walmart's ad sales grew by 30% to $2.7 billion. That is still a fraction of Amazon's total, but there is no reason why Walmart should not be able to catch up, according to a Morgan Stanley investment analyst.
And one way they could do that is through mergers and acquisitions. Amazon could increase its footprint quickly by buying a large supermarket chain. Given that antitrust pressure on big tech, though, it is probably off the table. If a build rather than buy approach is the only option, it will have to do a much better job of explaining how it will make it profitable. As it continues to waste time in experimenting, Walmart is confidently copying its best moves. The only compliment I've heard
Complaint.
The only complaint I've heard from clients is that so many items are locked up you can't take them to the cashier. You must find an associate to get them unlocked, and there's nobody around, so they just go home and buy it from Amazon.
Yep.
Clients haven't complained about this. Clients have complained about this, from razor blades to vacuum cleaners, and it is a problem. So, anyway,
it's just interesting that those two are going head-to-head, and they're such different models, but Walmart is working so hard and investing so much money to beat them.
Yep, that's right. And their stock's been on a tear this year, and we're just kind of waiting now for a pullback on that one ourselves. Let's see here. Don't waste money on biotin or collagen supplements, dermatologists say. Supplements that claim to improve appearance have grown in popularity over the past decade. From 2011 to 2020, the percentage of Americans who reported taking hair, skin, and nail vitamins increased from 2.5% to 4.9%. But experts warn about the side effects and dangers.
Which is why we're bringing this up. This is not about your money, it's about your health.
Yeah, which affects your money. Skin, hair, and nail supplements often contain more biotin than the human body needs. For example, a research paper published in the Journal of American Dermatology has found that high doses of biotin can alter test results that healthcare providers may prescribe, like thyroid testing or cardiac testing, and potentially even vitamin D testing. The daily recommended dose of biotin in adults is 0.03 milligrams. In some cases, supplements had 650 times that amount, according to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Why are they letting people sell this stuff?
I know.
I don't understand why it's not regulated.
High levels of biotin to that degree can potentially lead to false diagnosis of hyperthyroidism and affect doctors' abilities to detect heart attacks in patients. Dr. Adam Friedman, a chair of dermatology at the George Washington University, said that these side effects can sometimes be deadly. Someone died because of a heart attack was missed during testing. Friedman explained, saying that the patient's troponin levels weren't showing any signs for concern. They were elevated They weren't elevated in this one individual who was taking biotin supplement for hair growth. Biotin, or vitamin B7, is commonly found in most foods and multivitamins, so people rarely need supplements in any way, says Friedman. So if you were biotin deficient, you wouldn't be going to Walgreens to buy a bottle of biotin, he says. You'd probably be in the hospital.
So the natural way to get biotin and collagen is a balanced diet. He said that claims suggesting that biotin is good for hair, skin, and nail health are mostly anecdotal, and that most Americans are getting the small amount needed already through their daily diet. While preliminary data shows that collagen may make your skin healthier, he says more research is required to solidify that claim. Regardless, a well-rounded diet is the most natural and the safest way. Before taking any supplement, it's important to ask yourself these questions. Does it actually have the active ingredient it claims to have? What evidence supports using this particular amount of this particular product? Is this a trusted company to buy this specific product from? Has it been third-party tested, and does it contain any contaminants? Have I checked in with my doctor before taking it?
Collagen supplements, which are often touted as skin health aids, can often be taken without undue concern. But when tested, many popular brands contain toxic heavy metals like lead and mercury, Hartman and other dermatologists noted. Taking collagen probably won't hurt, Freeman adds, but we have so little guidance on this recommendation in respect to the right doses. For him, this is the bottom line. I tell my patients, please don't take biotin. To me, there is really no need. There's no added benefit, only potential harm.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
They're selling this junk.
But, you read those women's magazines,
yes,
and they're always in there.
They're always taking more and more stuff.
Yep. Hey, before we get into this, I know it's not quite halftime, but we probably should do that.
Okay.
Okay? All right. You've been listening to Your Money with Randy and Sherry Goss with Rosenberg Financial Group. And if you'd like to call in today to contribute to the show, the number is 478-742-0940. Rosenberg Financial Group has offices in Macon and Warner Robins, and you can learn more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. We offer complimentary consultations, and setting up an appointment is easy. Just call our office at 478-922-8100. All right, on with you.
So your Financial Independence Day, this is a big one. The last 5 years before you retire are critical. Everything you should do before time runs out. Retirement can seem like a faraway goal until all of a sudden it's not. Kind of like me turning 62 this year. I can't believe I'm 62. Time is just, and the year is half over.
Well, sweetie, you just don't look 62.
No, I don't feel it either. So where did
that doesn't
the time...
mean you look older than 62. I just want to make that clear.
All right, okay. So where did the time go? When you only have a few years left until you retire, the financial decisions you make take on a new importance. Once you're inside the 5-year window, that's a good time to review your plan to make sure you're on track. It's helpful to understand why the last 5 years before you retire are critical. I recommend that people come and see me and do a review with me. It doesn't cost a penny. We'll take it the 5-year hack and do the projection forward to make sure you're doing everything that you need to do, between paying off debt, saving, and all that, to make sure you're going to be okay. So timing matters, especially with retirement planning. When you're younger, time is on your side when it comes to investing for retirement. The more time you have to save and invest, the more opportunity your money has to grow, which everybody here knows. Waiting to start saving for retirement can mean having to play catch-up later. If you're approaching the last 5 years before you retire, a late start can put you at a serious disadvantage. There are 2 reasons why. First, you have less time to benefit from compounding interest. The second is tied to the first. It's natural that as you get older, you may shift to becoming more conservative. And so if you have less time and you're more conservative because you're so close, it's a double whammy. The last 5 years before you retire are essentially a test of your preparation and planning up to that point. When there are 5 years left on the clock, there's one big question you need to ask. Can I afford it? Whether the answer is yes or no depends largely on everything you've done to plan ahead. Some of the most important factors that can influence retirement preparedness include what you've saved in workplace retirement plans or IRAs, the amount of debt you have, your expected expenses in retirement based on your lifestyle, and how long your savings will need to last based on your age at retirement. And do not plan to die early. That is a horrible plan.
It is.
If you've planned well and remain consistent with your plan, then you may not need to do much tweaking in the last 5 years before you retire. On the other hand, if your plan has some holes or you've yet to start planning at all, you may have to work harder or longer to get ready for retirement.
That's right. And we have a special report on our website. It's titled, Can I Afford to Retire? It's free and provides great information you need to consider in your retirement planning. And, you know, I've talked about this same person without calling his name or their names on the radio show for years, and how much they procrastinated at savings. Well, and this past couple of months, I received several emails from them saying, "Hey, we're finally waking up, and we're putting,
and they're our age.
Yeah, they're older than us, and they're making a concerted effort now to be completely debt free in 5 years, but they want to retire today, and they can't hardly afford today's expenses, much less, letting go of their incomes that are coming in. So you have to really plan this out. That's what we're saying. So you have 5 years until retirement checklist. If you have 5 years until you retire, it is helpful to know what you should be doing to gauge your readiness. Here are some of the most important things to tackle to ensure that you can retire comfortably and on time. First, review your savings. In order to be where you want in retirement, you'll need to know where you are right now. Specifically, that means understanding how much you have saved for retirement and how much you still need to have saved within the next 5 years. And good morning. You're on the show with Randy and Sherry.
Good morning. This is your favorite listener from Perry, Georgia.
Good morning, Robin.
Good morning.
Happy Saturday.
Do I now?
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Okay.
I forgot what day it was.
All right. One thing about what I'm trying to stay on the same topic that you all are saying as far as retirement.
Outstanding.
And I got a spam caller last week. And what happened was, and I just want to say this to everyone who are listening, if the way I found out it was a spam caller, please do not give out your financial information to them.
That's right.
Because that's what they want to take advantage of and you retiring or whatever, and you give all your information to these stand operators.
They're trolling for your information.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the best way in which I found out before, I already knew that what it was before he had called. But when you just ask for a telephone number, as if they're talking about they're from the federal government, just ask them to give you their telephone number, and you'll call them right back.
That's right.
And
they're going to hang up.
They're going to hang up.
You're going to get a fast, busy signal.
Yep.
You're right. You're right, Robin.
Very good.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's what I want to say. Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right, have a great one. Stay dry.
Weekend.
All right, same to you. We'll see you. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, now running the numbers through a retirement savings calculator can help you see how close or how far away you are from your goal.
And these are free online all over the place.
And you have to, when you're running these retirement calculators, you have to be very realistic about the rate of return you're going to get in retirement, because if you put a higher return down, you really could be setting yourself up for failure. Think about the last 2 years and the cost of inflation and the low returns that we saw. You can use these resulting numbers to shape the next steps in your financial plan. If you're behind, for example, then you may need to substantially increase your 401k or your IRA contributions, or you may need to adjust your investment strategy in order to generate higher returns with the remaining years you have left to retire. But be careful here about chasing returns. The increased risk may not fit your personal investment profile. You may believe being 100% in the market is the right idea. Then the economy softens and the market declines. Panic sets in, and you may be inclined to move the money to the sidelines to protect what you have. We see this from time to time when people panic, and they move the money out of the market in a decline. In cases like this, you could very well be locking in the losses that you do not have time to recover from.
Know your income sources. It's a good idea to know what sources of income you'll be able to count on once you actually retire. Depending on your situation, that might include withdrawals from your 401k or workplace plan, withdrawals from traditional or Roth IRAs, pension income, Social Security benefits, which you need to wait, take them later so that it's bigger for the rest of your life usually, FERS benefits, rental property income if you own real estate, and annuities. You may also have income from other sources such as retirement accounts you inherited or health savings accounts. An HSA isn't a retirement account per se, as they're intended to be used for eligible medical expenses. However, after 65, you can withdraw money from an HSA for any reason, penalty-free. You'll just pay ordinary income tax on the distributions. Taking inventory of your potential income sources can give you a better idea of how much you may have to spend. It can also help you determine things like when to begin taking withdrawals from tax advantage plans, how much to withdraw, and the best age to apply, and please, for Social Security, and please look at the tax brackets. Please understand, I had somebody in this week, they were thinking about converting their IRA to a Roth. And they are already in the 12% tax bracket, but if they did the conversion, they would put themselves in the 22% bracket. Mm-hmm. You need to understand how these brackets work and how distributions are going to affect your tax situation, and plan ahead for all of that.
And, let me say something else on Social Security is I met with a couple this week and asked them how their projections looked for Social Security distributions when they decided to take it. And they said they had been maxing out Social Security. They didn't understand that you could go to the Social Security website and they will give you a projection of what your
SSA.gov.
Yeah, that's right. So go there and look for the link that gets you to
log in to My Social Security,
and it will show you what your monthly distributions are going to be. So take a look at that.
Yep. Estimate retirement spending. Income is one side of your retirement budget, and spending is the other. If you've got 5 years to go into retirement, that's a good time to start thinking about what kind of lifestyle you want versus what you'll be able to afford based on what you saved. Typical retirement expenses include housing, utilities, food, and health care, but your budget may also extend to travel, recreation, or new hobbies you've been wanting to try. Creating a mock budget, then comparing the numbers to your expected monthly income can help you see how far apart the numbers are. You may also take things a step further and try living on your retirement. This is what I recommend. Live on your retirement budget in the last 5 years before you retire. So I have a lot of clients who've done this, and man, it gives you tremendous peace of mind. That can help you evaluate how realistic it is. If you expect to spend less in retirement than you are now, doing a test run of your budget could leave you with some additional money to save each month.
Right. You also need to consider long-term care needs. Long-term care costs can easily wipe out your retirement savings. If you're in a 5-year span before retirement, that is a good time to assess your potential risk. Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care nursing, but Medicaid can. There's a catch, however, as qualifying for Medicaid usually means spending down your assets. If you don't want to do that, you might consider buying a long-term care insurance policy in the 5 years before you retire. Long-term care policies can pay out benefits to cover necessary nursing care. And if you're not sure whether you'll need long-term nursing care, you consider a hybrid policy that also includes life insurance. If you don't use long-term care benefits, then the policy can still pay out a death benefit to your beneficiaries. Sherry's working with a carrier that offers long-term care policies that includes a death benefit, and it can be fully paid up in the first year instead of making annual premium payments. Reach out to her if you'd like for her to do a quote for you.
So review your tax situation. Managing tax liabilities in retirement can allow you to hold on to more of your savings. You may consider making some tax moves in the last 5 years before retirement that can position you to pay less to the IRS later. For example, you might convert your traditional IRA to a Roth to get the benefit of tax-free withdrawals in retirement. Converting a traditional to a Roth doesn't allow you to escape taxes. Conversions are subject to the same tax rules, so you pay the tax now. That all depends on what your cash flow is now, whether you want to do that. However, once you've converted to a Roth, you won't pay any tax on distributions going forward, and you also won't have required minimum distributions. That could yield significant tax savings if you expect to be in a higher bracket when you retire. The bottom line, the last 5 years before you retire can pass in the blink of an eye, and there's no time to waste when it comes to finalizing your plans. Taking time to review where you are and where you hope to be can help you ensure that you don't come up short once it's time to leave the workplace behind for good. If this is where you are in life, call the office and schedule a complimentary consultation with me to review your plan. You also might want to throw this in. Might want to talk to your employer and do a phased-out retirement instead of just going from 40 hours a week to 0.
Right.
Which I think is really hard on a lot of people, especially if you haven't had time to develop any kind of hobbies or anything that you want to do.
Outside the workplace.
Yeah, because you work all the time,
yep.
And you're exhausted, and you're taking care of grandkids or whatever else you're doing. You're in the constant spin, and you're going to go from 100 miles an hour to 0.
And that often leads to depression.
Yeah.
So
if you can talk to your boss and maybe do a phased out, maybe break down 30 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and kind of phase yourself into a retirement life. I've had a lot of people who have done that because they wanted to retire, but they just financially weren't quite there yet. And so they did that, and it made all the difference in the world financially to help them continue to pay stuff off and to give them more something to do instead of just going cold turkey into being at home.
Yep, I agree with you. All right, let's shift gears and talk about Biden's new strict targets for fuel economy. Federal regulators are proposing stricter fuel economy standards for light-duty cars and trucks, saying the revamped rules would save consumers money at the pump and reduce the pollution. Now, they just changed this last year, and all the automotive manufacturers geared up.
Yes, based on those numbers.
And what if they had said... They're changing. I mean, it's just so hard to run a business when the rules keep changing. Anyway, The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration on Friday proposed new fuel economy standards for model years 27 through 32, regulating how far vehicles in the U.S. must travel on a gallon of fuel. Automakers will have to sell a portfolio of light-duty cars and trucks averaging 58 miles a gallon.
Averaging.
That's right. Miles a gallon by 2032, up from the 49 gallon now required in a model year 2026.
And this is just asinine because you're just messing over companies.
Yep.
You already gave them this rule that they're already trying to hit, and now you've just increased it. And I don't know how they're going to do it.
Well,
anyways,
the agency's proposal doesn't mandate the automakers offer electric vehicles, but would likely force the industry to sharply increase EV sales in order to comply. And this is the goal. It's not that the automakers need to make all the vehicles reach 58 miles per gallon. They can keep selling vehicles that get 8 miles to the gallon, provided the average of the entire fleet is 58 miles to the gallon. Automakers are confronting several hurdles in their effort to electrify their lineups and sway consumers to choose EV. The addition of millions of electric cars on the U.S. roadways in the coming years, for example, would require a massive build-out of charging stations. There's also questions around how quickly the U.S. car buyers will warm to battery-powered cars, which today accounts for about 7% of U.S. sales. EV leader Tesla in recent months has cut prices on EVs, prompting Ford Motor and others rivals to follow suit. And and his reduction in prices seem a sign that demand isn't as robust as auto executives figured out just months ago.
So I got to say, there's a number of typos in this article, and I copy and pasted it directly from the internet.
Yep.
And I'm seeing this all over the place, and it makes me wonder if people are reading and it's typing for them off of their reading, and it's messing up words. And I missed about 3 typos in the last bit you read.
So we apologize for that.
In April, the EPA proposed separate rules that govern tailpipe emissions, meaning those rules likely would require 2/3 of new vehicles sold to be electric by 2032, according to the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which represents major car companies. The lobbying group criticized the EPA proposal when it came out, calling it unreasonable and not achievable. I agree. On Friday, it said it would review NHTSA's proposal, which is pronounced NHTSA,
National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Yeah, proposal for fuel economy, and said it was encouraged that the 2 federal agencies appear to have tried to sync their proposals.
John Bozella, a veteran auto industry executive and president of the Alliance for Auto Innovations, commented that these were conflicting and overlapping rules. They're complex and they're expensive to the companies. What we really believe is going on here, this is being us, is a push to take the ICE or internal combustion engine vehicles, make them more expensive through these mandates, and ultimately be able to compare them to EVs. Currently, the price of the EVs are considerably higher. Currently, it's like comparing apples to oranges, and it's difficult for people to justify buying one. EVs have been more expensive because of lack of competition, economies of scale, and batteries. That's probably the top 3. Whether you like EVs or not, the fact is that these barriers are being broken down. Whether it's from more competition, improved economies of scale, or improved batteries. I also believe that the government subsidies will further acceptance. And according to an article on Electrek, ELECTREK.com, from earlier this month, you can still get a government subsidy of $7,500 under the IRS code 30D. And in the meantime, it will be interesting to see how these new mandates play out and how they will influence ICE and EV prices in the market of acceptance.
So meanwhile, Ford Motor topped profit expectations for the latest quarter, driven by strong sales of its traditional gas-fueled models. The automaker reported adjusted earnings per share of 72 cents, surpassing analysts' average estimate of 54 cents. Ford also raised its forecast for adjusted earnings before interest and taxes for the year. It now projects earnings between $11 billion and $12 billion, up from the previously forecast $9 to $11 billion. However, Ford announced that it is pulling back on its EV plans due to recent pricing pressures. The company said that while demand is strong for EVs, customers aren't willing to pay the high ticket price. And good morning. You're on with Randy and Sherry.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
U.S. government, get out of this business.
Right. Right?
Get out of this business. This is insanity.
It is.
It is.
This is insanity. People, I heard a report the other day. Tesla resale Teslas are down 30%.
Yeah.
It's just if I think one industry, if they wanted to really just play with electric equipment, would be the lawn care industry. And the other day I bought an electric weed eater. I love it. I mean, it's not noisy. The battery will last maybe an hour. I may have to buy another battery or whatever else. They have electric lawnmowers, they have electric blowers.
Yeah.
And these things run quiet. Play with that industry. But the automotive industry, this is insanity. People that are poor people won't ever be able to afford
That's
right.
exactly right.
Exactly. They can't even afford the battery.
Yeah, and the maintenance on them are hideous. They're 2,000 to 3,000 pounds high, way more,
Heavier,
1,000 pounds more than a regular vehicle. Tire wear is twice as fast. And then resale. You can't drive from here to. I'm from Kentucky. You can drive from here to Kentucky without having to charge for I don't know how long, an hour. Make sure you find a charging station. Make sure it's a rapid charging station. They did a study on the miles per gallon compared to the electric vehicles, the expense of the two, and the EV was more expensive to maintain because of the charging station.
I read an article on that this morning, as a matter of fact. So that's a valid point.
And the batteries decline every year, and they're expensive to replace.
So can you imagine being any car company and they keep shifting the goalpost on you? You know, you can't have a very effective management program. Now, granted, they seem to step up and they work towards it, but this is all about getting us to look at a car, you know, an EV compared to an ICE car on the same level, because they want to drive down the cost of the EVs and drive up the cost of the ICE cars, and that way people will start buying more of the EVs. That's what it all amounts to.
You know, I will not be one.
Right? Me neither. I don't want it.
I mean, give me a hydrogen car.
I like my Honda. I get almost 40 miles to the gallon, and it's a regular car.
You're not going to cut it next year, though.
But you know, it's just to me, it's just busy work. It's not work that we really need to be focusing on in America right now. We need to be working on chips. We need to be working on getting jobs back in America that are high-paying jobs, and this EV market is just busy work, and it's non-productive. You know, like I said, the lawn care industry. I've looked at different pieces of lawn care equipment, and you can get anything at basically the same price as a gas-operated lawn care equipment that you can buy electric. So, I mean, you know, battery operated. So, you know, focus on that. I mean, and like I said, this equipment is much quieter. It may require a little bit more effort from the standpoint of making sure you got enough batteries and battery time to do it and stuff like that. But Lord Jesus, driving down from here to Atlanta, and I got to stop in Forsyth to get the power.
Right.
I don't have one client that wants this. Not one.
No. Well, probably all your clients are like me. They're in their 60s and 70s, and they're like, no.
Right. I think the whole thing is stupid, and the government raising this is just a disaster. It's going to force companies to do stuff that is not profitable, and this is like something out of Atlas Shrugged. Have you ever read that book?
Yes.
Okay, it's right out of Atlas Shrugged. Let's control the companies and tear them apart. It's insanity. But anyways.
And we as voters and things of that sort, we need to continue letting our senators and our Congress people know this is not acceptable.
That's right. And, you know, this is not about any different political party either, because both political parties have done this for decades. But it's just gotten worse. It's just gotten worse.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for the call.
God bless you all. Here,
get on the phone. Get on the phone with
Safe
Camp.
travels in your ice.
Take care. Thanks for the call. All right, so here's another article from MarketWatch. Sorry if I'm kind of pounding on this today, but it just makes me mad. Deutsche Bank analyst wrote about Ford's report that these are impressive profit margins, but the EV program is seemingly off track. He rates shares sell, and they want to sell Ford now because they're not producing the cars that they're going to be forced to produce, and their stock is going down. What else could go wrong? He rates shares sell and has a $13 price target for the stock. That sentiment was echoed by other analysts, including ones with buy ratings. Ford Model E, the company's EV division, reported $1.8 billion in sales and a loss of $1.1 billion.
That's staggering.
The Model E loss was expected because making cars requires economies of scale. Automakers need to ship a minimum of roughly 100,000 vehicles a quarter to approach profitability. Ford delivered 34,000 fully electric and hybrid vehicles in the second quarter, up from 12,000 in the first quarter. What does matter is that Ford now expects to lose about $4.5 billion in the Model E operation in 2023, up from a prior call of $3 billion. It will take a lot longer to reach the scale required for profitability. CEO Jim Farley said on the company's conference call that Ford is targeting a 600,000 EV production run rate by the end of 2024. The prior goal was 600,000 by the end of this year. They can't do it. They can't get the materials. They can't make the cars. They're losing money. I mean, this is a disaster. Anyways, upward and onward.
They are truly between that proverbial rock and a hard place, right?
Right.
All right, let's talk about what to do before you sell a single share of stock. Imagine this simple scenario. Say you own 2 stocks. You bought each for $50 a share. Over the course of your investment, one has risen to $75 per share and the other has fallen to $25. Suddenly you need to raise money. Perhaps a car you wanted to buy is on sale at the local dealer, or a cabin on the lake where you want to retire is suddenly on the market. You need to raise some cash. You decide to sell one of your investments, but which stock do you sell? If you're like most people, you choose to capture your gains. You sell the $75 winner and keep holding the $25 loser. You may think the loser stock seems to have more upside potential, and you've probably been waiting to get to the point of get even on the position. It's nearly a universal impulse, but it's a terrible investing choice. Investors love to sell winners too soon and ride the losers too long, and a slew of behavioral finance studies show it. One by Terry Ogden, a professor at the University of California, Berkeley, found investors are almost twice as likely, 1.7 times, to sell a winning stock as they are to selling a losing stock. Following this similar logic, investors held stocks for 124 days and longer than their winning stocks of 102 days. But you may wonder, maybe the winning stock had grown overvalued and its gains were behind it. It turns out the report showed that the winning stocks, which had been sold, subsequently outperformed the losing stocks when the investors were still holding. It depends on what time frame you look at, but the consensus is that over 6 to 8 months period, stocks that are moving up tend to keep moving up, and stocks that are falling keep falling. This phenomenon is known as autocorrelation. This confirms the old adage, let your winners run and cut your losers short. Okay, but how do you know when to cut your losers and when your winners have had enough time to run? In other words, how do you know when to sell your stock? There's no single rule that will tell you when to sell because there is no rule that tells you when to buy. The strategy for selling is determined by why you bought it in the first place and should be determined at the same time by your initial investments. It's critical when you buy to know exactly what you expect to get out of the investment and what would lead you to sell. Stansberry Research recommends 3 things. Write down why you bought it, write down when you'll sell it, and 3, I review my investments at least once a year and preferably every 6 months, so you keep reviewing them. One trick they use when deciding whether to sell a stock is to ask yourself whether I'd buy more right now or recommend it to my family or friends. If the answer is no, it's probably time to sell. And in their Income Intelligence newsletter, they recommended trailing stops, which are a way to eliminate your emotions and get out of a losing position before they get too large. Before you let your emotions make the decision, consider whether making the common mistake of capturing gains, and think about putting a better plan in place. And they always recommend a 20% trailing stop according to their site. So,
and if you're doing this online, you can pay for the service of adding trailing stops. And you can get notifications on your phone if something drops like that. And then you could go ahead and stop out of it and then wait it goes down. You still want it, then you could buy it back within so many days. But anyways.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I've seen is people fall in love with the stock just because of the name.
Yes.
And you can't do that. I mean, if you're in the business or just because it's a hobby that you really enjoy, understand that you're there to make money, not to make stock your friend.
Right. So this is interesting to me. More Americans than ever report a disability, yet they are more likely to have a job than before the pandemic. This is from The Economist. Nothing seems to be able to dent America's labor market these days. A new analysis finds that the number of American adults reporting that they have a disability has risen sharply since the pandemic, but has not made them less likely to work. The number crunching by Andrew Hunter of Capital Economics, a consultancy firm, draws on data from the Current Population Survey, a monthly household survey conducted by the Census Bureau for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Although the survey tends to focus on labor force conditions, including employment and earnings, it also asks questions about disabilities. And the share of Americans reporting they have a serious difficulty in certain daily tasks has risen sharply since the pandemic to nearly 8% of those aged 16 to 64 and 13% for those aged 16 and over. Wait a minute. It says, see the chart, and I erase the chart. Never mind. Okay.
Precisely why the pandemic boosted disability rates is unclear, though the types of disabilities that are on the rise suggest that long COVID is to blame. The CPS asked respondents to report whether they have serious difficulty in one of six categories: hearing, seeing, concentrating, remembering or making decisions, walking, dressing or bathing, and doing errands.
So I have clients that still have a hangover from COVID, and it's been 2 years ago, and they're having the vision, the hearing, the concentrating. I'm seeing all of those things, and they also don't have balance. They have balance issues from it.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things. Like I feel like I still have long COVID because I just can't get the post-signage drip to stop. It's COVID.
Weird.
Anyway, historically trends in such conditions have changed together over time. But as Mr. Hunter points out, from 2019 to 2022, the number of American households with working-age respondents reporting trouble concentrating, remembering, or making decisions has risen much faster than other ailments, from 6.3 to 7.3 million. Long COVID may be responsible since brain fog or cognitive impairments is one of the hallmark symptoms, according to other researchers.
I've had this, and I've already said this earlier, I've had this feedback from a number of clients, but it's concerning. It has not yet had the economic effects you might expect. Indeed, whereas in past recession claims for disability insurance have typically gone up, after the pandemic such claims fell. The labor force participation rate of working-age Americans with disabilities has increased from 33% before the pandemic to nearly 40% today. I find that staggering. Here again, COVID is probably a factor. A paper published earlier this year by Harvard University found that as the job market improved from 21 to 22, previously jobless people with disabilities found work more quickly than the able-bodied counterparts, particularly in occupations that allow for remote work. This suggests that the rising labor force participation rate of Americans with disabilities can be attributed not only to tight labor markets, but also to the widespread adoption of remote work in the wake of the pandemic. I think we just repeated ourselves here. During the post-pandemic recovery, workers have found jobs to be abundant. People with disabilities are no exception, which is good for them.
Yeah. So if you're experiencing any of this, don't think that you're alone in this. So just talk to your doctor about it. All right, here's something that's very interesting. We're down to the last few minutes of the show, so this is a good topic to fill this space. Has nothing to do with your money, but it's very interesting. Congress is holding UFO hearings. Have y'all heard about this? We know this article has nothing to do with your money, but like I said, I find it interesting. It just blows my mind. Congress is set to hold hearings, actually they did this week, on UFOs in an effort to compel the Defense Department to release more information about the phenomenon that was once seen as taboo, but has become the focus of lawmakers in recent years after a series of bombshell reports revealing hundreds of military observations of mysterious airborne objects, prompting accusations that the Defense Department has been both dismissive and secretive about the findings. There are many examples of politicians trying to get the DoD to disclose more information on the U.S. UFO topic over many years, as well as a lot of truly unidentified flying objects that cannot be attributed to anything other than some sort of a spacecraft. This year, legislation was introduced to require the U.S. government to report all UFO sightings to a review board that would have the authority to declassify the information. And later this year, the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border and Foreign Affairs, will hold a hearing on UFOs in an effort to assess the federal government's transparency and accountability regarding the object and the threats they may pose to national security. 510. That's the total number of UFO sightings the federal government has recorded since 2004, according to the January report.
Most people don't report this kind of thing, so it's way more than that.
It's probably according to the January report by the Director of National Intelligence. The government said that it closed many of the cases after determining that the objects were airborne trash drones or Chinese surveillance devices, but 171 were marked uncharacterized and unattributed. Congress will hear testimony from the former Defense Department intelligence officer, David Gurish, who worked on a special unit to study the UFOs and claimed that the June article in the debrief that classified that the government had recovered partially or fully intact UFOs of exotic origin for decades. Gurish recently filed a complaint against the department, alleging that it retaliated against him for providing information about the secretive findings to Congress. And I think it's just going to be very interesting to see how this shakes out. But it's front page news on a lot of websites, so if you're interested, go check it out. And we are at the end of the show, folks. And thank you for listening to Your Money, produced by Rosenberg Financial Group. As financial advisors, the main thing that we do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. And if you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact our office to set up a complimentary consultation. Our office number is 478-922-8100, and you can learn more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. If you have questions or topics you would like us to cover on next week's broadcast, email me at randy@rfmoney.com, and we look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. No strategy can assure a profit against loss. Rosenberg Financial Group is located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, Georgia 31088, and can be reached at 478-922-8100.